What's up, everyone? So we're back, and like I said, I am starting to do these riffs. Today's episode is about, like I said, why I've been dedicated to Bitcoin for almost 13 years of my life, why I'm so obsessed with the idea, why I think Bitcoin's going to take over the world, and in many ways it already has and will continue to do so. So let's dive into it. My background is just, electrical engineering. When I came into the real world, and started working, I noticed something very quickly. I noticed that there was always more month than there was money. What I mean by that is that, the month would run out or the month wouldn't run out. There'd be like a week left and you're out of money. And so after you pay, I remember, when I first came out of university, I had student loans, and you've got rent, you've got car payments, you go out with your friends, you eat out a little bit here and there, and you wouldn't even do a whole lot, but you would all of a sudden just be left with a bunch of month and no money. And so that feeling drove me to be like, okay, well, maybe I can learn about money. And maybe if, I don't know, a bright idea at the time was if I became a financial advisor, that somehow would, I don't know, enable me to essentially learn about money. And so I actually did that. I got my life insurance license, my mortgage license, and I, became an independent broker, and I started selling mutual funds and essentially advising people on strategies on how to save money on taxes, how to optimize, their situation for financial freedom. And it was interesting because while I was so-called like teaching people or helping people, I had all these really deep questions around, for example, like, what is inflation? Like, why is it that the value of our money keeps going down year after year consistently? And that was one of the enemies that you were always fighting as a financial advisor for your clients. And then obviously a lot of questions around taxation, but really most of the questions revolved around money itself. Like, what is it? Like, how did it come to be? Just basic questions like, what's the history of money? Like, why has no one ever taught me? Why have I never learned? And what I discovered at the end of that journey is that most people don't know. Like, most people have no clue. They are kind of just winging it, and yeah, and they just, they work hard in school, they get a good job, they just try and live on that, and hope they have enough of it in their retirement, and that's it. And so it was a very like shallow understanding, or like a kind of a like social understanding. I felt like, well, it's this thing that people are literally going to school a third of their lives to prepare for, and then eventually enter the work field. They're getting into divorces over it, they're getting into world wars over it, yet almost nobody, not young people, not people running households, not people running banks, nobody could say to me, like, just look me in the eye and be like, hey, so money is blah 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 blah, which obviously Bitcoiners can. And so that really left like a kind of a sour taste in my mouth. I was like, you know what? I don't know, this entrepreneurship thing and this money thing I'm confused about. So I'm going to take a safer route, and I'm going to pull the plug. And I ended up leaving that space and really saying, okay, I know I want to do entrepreneurship long term, but I don't want to do entrepreneurship right now. I'd rather do it with like training wheels. And the thing that Robert Kiyosaki and a lot of these people like Rich Dad Poor Dad and people who wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad kind of guides people towards is like, okay, well, selling is one of those skills you need to hone in on if you want to be an entrepreneur eventually. And so I thought, hey, what about, and a part of me was also really missing the technical, like engineering side of, my world, like with what I had studied in engineering. And so I had actually just put an intention out there saying, hey, I want to work for a company that sells robots to universities. And lo and behold, within 2 weeks, I had manifested that. It was crazy, like an interview. And when that kind of shit happens, I tend to just like put everything aside and just focus on that one thing, because I'm like, okay, this is a signal. This is like me having a desire, putting it out there, finding something that exactly matches it. I'm like, I'm gonna go all in with this. And I know I'm kind of giving you guys a long story, but I think that's the point of these YouTube videos, is to ramble a bit so you get to know me. Maybe not, I have no idea, we'll see. So right now I am, so then I go on and I started, I joined this company. I worked for them for almost 8 years of my career. I do sales, inside sales, academic solutions advisor was the kind of the technical term, but we sold robots essentially to universities around the world. In 2000, I think 12 or something, I moved out to India, to Bangalore, on behalf of that company, and was when I realized, like, okay, I need to now, and so long story short, I essentially came across the Bitcoin white paper, on the internet. I saw some YouTube videos, early days. The only person I can kind of remember is Da Vinci. He's still around. He makes a lot of videos. He's quite popular. He's like this black guy, originally from Toronto. I think he lives elsewhere now, but he was talking about it. And there's a famous $1 video where he was like, oh, it's going to go to the moon. And I think it was at $1. And I saw that and a bunch of other things, and I was super into Ron Paul and learning about gold, and Bitcoin just came at me at the right time. And I just, while living in India, I was like, oh my God, this is it. Like, yeah, I had missed the, the opportunity with the internet, which I like, experienced firsthand, and then the computer, I guess, before that, and then, smartphones after that, and just one after another, seeing these like massive, massive things come and go, and see friends capitalize on opportunities, and always having this like desire to want to do something similar. When I saw Bitcoin, I was like, oh my God, this is so it. This is the thing that I've been looking for. This is the thing I've been really wanting to, get out there and make a difference. And said, okay, well, Bitcoin seems like it is money. And I've learned more about money by studying Bitcoin than anything else. And money and Bitcoin is so beautiful, and it's so elegant, and it's so disruptive. And I mean, it's so subversive. It's elegant. It's like the engineering and the design and the just like the distributed network, and the censorship resistance, and the open source, and the everything about it, right? The game theory, the Austrian economics basis, the libertarianism, the fight for freedom, all of it was just so intoxicating. It was like day after day. You hear about people when they first get into Bitcoin, or they first start learning about it, they can't sleep at night. They can't, they need to stay up 24/7 just studying Bitcoin. And luckily, at that time, I was living by myself in India, kind of losing interest a little bit in my career of 8 years, and being like, okay, this is something I could see myself really putting my future into. And so that's what started it for me. And I'll maybe just leave the next, like, I'm gonna try and keep my videos under 10 minutes, I guess, just because like I can't pay attention for anything longer than that, so I don't expect you to. But that was kind of like the impetus for like the, let's just say, part one of my story, is like just having this like yearning to want to learn about money, knowing that it was something that was important, yet most people had no clue what the hell it was, which just felt like a big arbitrage opportunity. And when I discovered Bitcoin, I was like, oh, wow, this is what money is. It's something, that is scarce. And scarcity in money leads to abundance in reality, whereas like an abundance in money leads to scarcity in reality. It's like, whoa, like that second order connection was like amazing, right? And so just to know again that it wasn't centralized, and how important that was, and just right place, right time, much an accident, but also intention. I manifested Bitcoin into my life, and Bitcoin gave me a sense of purpose when I needed it most. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. So part two, I'll talk about meetups and how I met my co-founders for UnoCoin. But let's bring this one to a close. So leave your questions and comments below. Ask me whatever questions you have. And yeah, I'm an open book.